Slow walking is, of course, one of this area's main attractions, and in recent years, hikers in the UK have been facing a much more serious threat than just a blistered big toe. A relatively unknown menace is on the rise, and it could turn an autumn stroll into a dance of death. Here's Jules.
Actress Martine McCutcheon, pop star Shania Twain, actor Richard Gere, TV personality Kelly Osbourne. Four famous faces who've had one pretty nasty experience.
They've all been bitten by one of these, a tick. Now, these tiny examples may look harmless enough, but they are responsible for carrying, amongst other things, Lyme disease. Cases of that have doubled in the UK in the last year alone. And a bite from an infected tick can lead to serious health problems. That's exactly what happened to one of England's top rugby stars.
A World Cup winner in 2003, scrum half Matt Dawson has played 77 times for England. And he's just as well known for his fancy footwork on the Strictly dance floor. But nothing could have prepared him for the challenges he faced fighting Lyme disease, picked up from a tick bite in a London park.
Talk us through what happened.
Yeah, I was doing some training in the park that we'd done for years before, and I remember going back that afternoon, and in the evening, just feeling a bit itchy. You know, that's how it felt at the time.
Did you, at any point, realise that you were bitten?
Not when I was doing the training, no. I had a T-shirt on and shorts, but this tick had got under the T-shirt and got onto my back. A few weeks later, when I've seen this little bite, and my wife, who's from just outside Hamburg, immediately said, that's Lyme's. And then I had 2 days where I was absolutely wiped out, full-on man flu, on the sofa, but really wiped out. Little did I know that was one of the symptoms.
Untreated, Lyme disease can lead to heart failure, meningitis, paralysis and even death. And astonishingly, very little is known about it in this country.
Did your GP recognise it as Lyme disease?
No. This rash started to develop and probably got to about that big on my back, like a bullseye. Yeah. It was very, very sensitive on my back. The skin was really like sharp to touch. When I went to the GP, they didn't have any knowledge around Lyme. In fact, they said it's probably just a mosquito bite that's got infected.
It wasn't until Matt had blood tests as part of a regular checkup that Lyme disease was finally diagnosed. By then, major damage had been done.
The bacteria had got into my heart, created an inflammation, created scar tissue, then started redirecting some of the electricity around my heart, was giving me 30,000 extra heartbeats a day. That's when I had the intravenous antibiotics to get rid of the Lyme. And then I was monitored for 3 or 4 days and have been ever since. And that involved 2 heart procedures, second one being 7 hours long to try and manipulate the electricity around the heart and get it back on track.
Would you say it's been life-changing for you?
It absolutely been life-changing. You know, wherever we are, there is this risk that if we do get bit by a tick, there are huge complications.
Lyme disease is caused by the nasty-sounding Borrelia bacteria, which are carried by ticks. 15 to 20 years ago, there were only around 250 reported cases of the disease in the UK each year. The NHS says there are now as many as 3,000 per annum. And failure to diagnose correctly may mean the figure is even higher. So what's driving the numbers up so dramatically? The simple answer is that the tick population is growing. And one reason for that may be that deer are thriving in this country, as Professor John Holland from the Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust explains.
Well, John, it's a lovely day for a walk up here through the Red Deer Park at Ashton Court, just outside Bristol. But I was surprised to see on the gate coming in a sign warning people of the dangers of Lyme disease here. You know, how strong is the correlation between deer and the disease itself?
Well, the deer are very important in the life cycle of the ticks, so they need this blood meal off a large mammal in order to mature their eggs. Once they're fed on deer, for example, the adults drop to the ground and lay their eggs, and they lay about 2,000 eggs into the soil. The incidence of Lyme disease is going up, so more and more cases every year. And also the deer population's one of the highest since records began. So you could say that the two are linked, but it's much more complicated than that.
What about climate change? Does that play a role?
Climate change is bringing warmer and wetter summers, and that's ideal for the ticks because they need those moist conditions, otherwise they will dehydrate. And the ticks, the way that they attach themselves to other animals is to crawl up onto the vegetation, so at a height where the animal will pick them up. And warm, moist conditions can help that.
Public Health England estimate that every day at least 8 of us are contracting Lyme disease from tick bites. It's a worrying trend.
Well, from what you said, you and I are now surrounded potentially by thousands of ticks.
Yeah.
But how many of them actually carry the disease?
Well, overall, it's very small, maybe 0.5%. So 1 in 200 ticks might have some Borrelia infection in them.
And, you know, outside of deer parks, are there any other hotspots that we should be aware of?
Well, there's generally the southwest of England, East Anglia, they're all areas where Lyme disease is more prevalent. But there are particular hotspots such as the New Forest, Harewood Forest, Lake District, but especially the Highlands of Scotland are much higher levels of Lyme disease.
And ticks aren't just posing an increased threat to us humans. Recent research has shown that the number of dogs becoming infected by tick-borne Lyme disease is on the up too.
Later on in the show, Teddy and I... Teddy, come here. Come on. We'll be finding out what you and your four-legged friends can do to keep safe in the countryside. Good boy, come on.